follows: platinum $60,000 A, diamond $50,000 A, gold $40,000 A, and silver $35,000 A. Each table comes with 10 gala dinner tickets and cash power raffle tickets. Individual tickets $1,500 A. January 25th, that is the dance at the Paradise Suites Hotel, Penchami Hall. The tickets are as follows: VIP $600 A, ordinary $400 A. Chief guest of honor for the night: Modu Turo Dabo, Ajay Chan Khan, and Fatu Toure. And at Brikama Joko, which is January 27th, the tickets are $200 A flat. Chief guest of honor: Lamin Sane, Governor of West Coast Region, Ajay Fatu Sow, Farato Alcalo, and Amidou Ja Oil. For reservations, please call 366-4096, 997-3500, 384-6607, 980-2992.
Welcome back to GRTS News. Leaders of the M23 rebels in the DR Congo have announced a unilateral ceasefire. The announcement was made by the executive secretary of the group, Francois Rukakoza, at a press conference in Kampala. And the United Nations has sounded the alarm about the worsening humanitarian crisis in Sudan's South Kordofan region. Reports say at least 900,000 people are at risk of starvation. We have details in this report.
M23 rebels in the North Kivu region of DR Congo have declared a unilateral ceasefire. Their chief, Francois Rukugoza, made the announcement at a press conference in Kampala, Uganda. In addition to pulling out of the city of Goma, he said it was proof of the good faith of the rebel movement. One more time, our movement is showing its determination to move towards peace, so as not to serve the interests of the Kinshasa government. The announcement came on the eve of a second round of talks with the Kinshasa government. The United Nations has sounded alarm bells on the humanitarian situation in the province of Sudan called South Kordofan. The UN says that up to 900,000 people could be at risk of dying of hunger. They have been caught up in the fighting between the Khartoum government troops and rebels close to rival South Sudan. Humanitarian aid groups are calling on the UN to do what it can so that relief aid can reach the starving people. United States Ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice, called on Sudan and South Sudan to hold emergency talks. Prime Minister of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, is on a tour of Africa. Arriving in Niamey, Niger, he was welcomed by President Mahamadou Issoufou. The program of the visit includes working meetings and the signing of business accords. They are in the fields of health, water engineering, and education. Prime Minister Erdogan will then go on to Senegal and returns to Turkey on January 11th. There has been another elephant massacre in Kenya. A family of 11 elephants, including a 2-month-old baby, was killed by poachers. Their bullet-riddled huge bodies were found in Tsavo National Park in southwest Kenya. Their valuable horns had been hacked off. Very strong demand for elephant ivory products in Asia has led to a major hike in poaching of elephants in Africa, now at its highest level in more than 10 years.
The Speaker of the Venezuelan Parliament has confirmed that President Hugo Chavez will miss his inauguration, which was scheduled for Thursday. The ceremony has now been postponed as President Chavez recovers from a multiple surgery in Cuba. And harshing conditions have affected much of the Middle East. Turkey, Israel and Jordan are experiencing severe snowfalls. We have details of those stories and others in this roundup report.
Venezuela's President Hugo Chavez will not be present for his inauguration Thursday. The Speaker of the National Assembly announced it would take place at a later date. After 4 operations for cancer, President Hugo Chavez's doctors recommended that he continues treatment in Cuba. President Chavez's mandate expires on the 10th of January. The opposition is calling on the Supreme Court to decide if the government's move to postpone the inauguration is constitutional. In Northern Ireland, the British flag is hoisted over the City Hall in the capital, Belfast, once again. The flag is being flown for the birthday of Prince William's wife, Catherine, who's 31. The flag's reappearance is seen as appeasement to angry Protestant loyalists who protested every night since December the 3rd, when City Hall announced it would no longer fly the flag all year round. The damage caused by the wave of protests since December has amounted to close to £4 million, with 100 arrests. The Middle East has been hit with abnormal weather conditions for the past 4 days. There is snow, strong winds in Turkey, Syria, Lebanon and Israel. 9 people have been killed and dozens have disappeared. Jordan, which is mostly desert, has been struck with torrential rains, making the lives of 60,000 Syrian refugees in the Zaatari camp even more difficult. The United Nations is now moving the refugees to another location. In an unusual visit, the chairman of the internet site Google is visiting North Korea. Eric Schmidt's so-called private visit is raising questions, since most North Koreans are the most isolated and censored people on earth. Officially, Eric Schmidt is visiting North Korea to plead for the release of a U.S. citizen awaiting trial for alleged crimes against the state. Access to full-blown internet is for the super elite in North Korea, a maximum of 1,000 people.
We're going to take a second break now. Fatou Jassi joins us with sports right after.
Start your day with Armonti, pure margarine with the best ingredients. Also ideal for frying and baking. Every day, an Armonti day.
Ipis naturel yi ci jonge super doré. Say gruyère ak say ceeb day gën a doré te di nga am cëfka bu amul fenn. Jongeel ba sës, jongeel ba faw, mi jongeel ba ca biir cin.
Well, we now take a look at sports. Fatou?
Thank you very much, Ajami. Togolese striker Emmanuel Adebayo has confirmed his participation in next week's Africa Cup of Nations in South Africa. The controversial forward made the disclosure as he joined his teammates ahead of the finals. Adebayo earlier surprised Togolese football fans by declaring his desire to boycott the games. We have details in this report.
Togolese football fans can breathe a sigh of relief. Tottenham Hotspur striker Emmanuel Adebayo will, after all, take part in the Africa Cup of Nations later this month. Adebayo had been planning to skip the competition, but Togo's president, Faure Gnassingbe, convinced him to return and take up his role as captain of the national team.
It's true that the Africa Cup of Nations is a great competition in the career of a football player, and even more so that I will represent my country, Togo. It's a great source of pride for me.
It's not only the fans who are relieved, the sports press is too. Although some never really believed Adebayo would stay away from the competition.
There is a personal motivation for the Tottenham player because he has never scored a goal at the Africa Cup of Nations. We know that Adebayo plays a role in motivating his teammates. That could help a lot.
The Togolese team is especially anxious to overcome the memory of 2 years ago when it was attacked by gunmen as it was traveling through the Angolan province of Cabinda for the Africa Cup of Nations. This year's competition starts on January 19th in South Africa. Togo will face some of the toughest early matches in the tournament as they are grouped with Côte d'Ivoire as well as Tunisia and Algeria.
That's the sports, and over to you, Ajay.
Well, thank you, Fatou. And before we come to the end of the edition of the news, a reminder of our top stories. Government has issued a press release condemning any attempt to interfere in the internal affairs of the country, especially those dealing with implementation of domestic laws enacted and accepted by the Gambian people and passed by its legislature. Dr. Njogu Elba has returned to his old job as Secretary General and Minister for Presidential Affairs. This is Mustafa Charles Kamara and his his deputy Madi Ojata moves to the Foreign Ministry as permanent secretary. Venezuelan lawmakers have postponed President Hugo Chavez's inauguration for a fourth term of office, and the